Hi guys, this is Raquel with paintsandglitter.com, and I'm coming to you with a video tutorial on how to use a couple of different techniques to make tags. I was asked how I made a particular tag that I'm going to be showing, and I'm not going to repeat the same exact tag because for me to do the same exact thing twice is nearly impossible. But I will show you the techniques of how I went about it. So basically I'm working on some tags in a really monochromatic style of color or color scheme, and I'm doing that on purpose because it's to go with a particular theme that I'm working on. So what I did was I went into Cricut Design Space and I cut out all of the elements for my tag with the exception of a couple of little things. So basically I went in, I searched the word tag, and I found one that I liked. And then from there I started searching for shapes to go on top of my tag that I also wanted to use. So my base tag was this one here. I'll show you guys. Was this shape here, okay? And hopefully I'm in frame, yep. So this was my base shape here, which was a long rectangular tag, and it has this shape up here, and then this is actually not there's actually a piece of vellum in here right now, so if you could picture that without anything, that was my base tag. And then I cut it again in black paper, so I cut it out of white and black paper because I like to back up, I like to have sturdy tags. So I also did some stamping on it, but before I did the stamping, what I did was I took I used Distress Oxide Ice Spruce in Ice Spruce. So I took and I keep the little foamy pads there on the bottom with just a one of those little glue dots. So I inked the edges of my paper, and I just try to go in from the sides like so, and if I get more on one end or one piece, rather than you know, a smooth blend on all of it, I don't really care, because it's to make it look sort of like a weathered iron. If you could picture like an iron fence, that was the look that I was going for. And this ink, I love it because it's a weathered gray, and gray, even though I love to paint and I love all colors, gray is one of my favorite colors to work with. So okay, so once I got the color where I wanted it, which I just highlighted certain areas, that's the other thing I wanted to point out, okay? I don't try to saturate all of it in the dark color on purpose. So because I'm going for, you know, a subtle look there. So once I had the ink where I wanted it there, then what I did was I used some of my distress pencils, and I used Weathered Wood, which has a blue, a dark blue color to it, and I just went over the edges like this, here and there, and see how I went into the paper like that? I don't worry about that because I'm distressing here. So this is not for precision by any means. And then what I do is I rub my finger on that color, and please excuse my nails because I was working with gesso yesterday also, and I destroyed my nails, which I had tried to paint playfully, of course. That was my what do you call it, my eclipse manicure which I just did for fun. Okay, so there's the blue color that I added there, which is very subtle also, it's not in your face blue. And I also used another color called Old Paper, and literally that's exactly what it does. It just makes your colors here, and I'm going over the same areas that already have more intensity of color there, and I'm not going over the white on purpose. So I went over that with the Old Paper, and same thing, Rub that in. It blends really beautifully just with the pressure of your fingers. You could use a tool for this if you wanted to, but you know, the best tools we have available to us are our hands, of course, in my opinion. I work mostly like this. I think it's more fun, and that's why I never have nice nails, but that's okay. All right, so there's that. Okay, now that was how I did part of it. The base of it, which you see here, I stamped with the same Distress Oxide ink, and I'll show you that. So I'm just going to wipe this off with my cloth, my very stained cloth. It's stained with inks, but it's what I use here to clean. So I like to keep my surface as clean as possible. So, okay, so then I did that. I'm going to actually use this tag, even though it's not the same shape, because I'm working with the same colors. So this was another shape also available with Cricut. I also cut it again in black because I'm going to back that up. And I used a Stampin' Up, I think I'm gonna go with this one. I used the background stamp called Canvas. And I've been looking and collecting these, looking for these background stamps, the big ones, because a lot of people are getting rid of them. And Stampin' Up is if you're not familiar with this company, they're really reputable. They're good stamps. They'll last you forever. I mean, it's kind of cumbersome to have the big wooden blocks, but if you have the room for them, then I say go for it. I get mine literally at garage sales and resale stores for pennies. So you know, one man's trash is another man's treasure. So that's what I do. I saturate it with ink, and this is a the same gray. Okay, once I have it on my block like so, then I take my tag, and this is how I do it, which is, there's no wrong or right way, but for me, I'm more comfortable doing it like this. Sometimes I'll even take a scrap piece of paper, which I don't know if I have one laying around that's big enough. Maybe I do. Yeah, let's try this one. And I'll do this. And then I have a brayer somewhere. Here it is. Okay, so I will run my brayer over it like so, trying not to move that paper, of course. So I'll do that. And all right, then the big reveal will be the stamped image on my background. Now before this dries, I quickly try to go ahead and cover this up with embossing powder. Okay, I'm going to be using Glitz by Recollections, and this will dry rather quickly, but I'm not looking to add a huge amount. I'm just going like on the borders of it, here and there. Okay, and then this will add some glitz, as it's called, to my image. Okay, try to use a flimsy piece of paper, because the flimsier that is, then the easier you can refill your bottle there. Okay, move that aside, and now I'm going to heat this with my heat gun, and that's that. Okay guys, so I'm back with the result of that, the embossing that I just showed you, with the large stamp on the background, and hopefully you're able to see some of the shimmer that's on there when the light hits it. So you see what it looks like now. And so that was just to show you guys how I did the embossing there on the tag. And then what I wanted to let you guys know was that the piece that I showed you here that I had distressed, what I did was that I cut it also in black, and I glued those two pieces together. And then what I did was that I backed it up with a piece of vellum. Or I'm sorry, this is a tulle, not vellum. So once I had it backed up with the black piece of paper, which of course you don't see here, but that's what I did to make it sturdy, I went ahead and placed double-sided adhesive and then placed a tulle on to that piece. And once I had the tulle on the piece of paper, what I did was that I used this foam tape. Okay, so as you can see, it says foam tape weather strip. I'll show you what that looks like. I got mine at the dollar store. And the reason that I got this was because it's adhesive on one side, even though I don't really bank on that adhesive because it's not the greatest. But what I did was, I'll show you. Let me grab these scissors. I cut off a piece of that foam tape. Okay, just set that aside. And then I took my X-Acto knife, and this is not, you know, not an easy process, but for me, I found it to be easy just because I'm familiar with using these types of materials. Okay, so I just did a straight line right down the middle. Okay, that became thinner, as you can see. And then once like I said, once my tool excuse me, was glued on here with I used double-sided tape, then I went ahead and adhered the foam, and if you see this, it's the same exact thickness of the paper. Okay, so then that way, when you flip it over, you don't actually see the foam. What you see is just your paper there. Now, once I had it all put together, which was, again, paper, double-sided adhesive, tulle, then the foam, which you can also use double-sided adhesive on, and then the way that you adhere it to your tag, obviously, is that you then need adhesive on this side. But what I did was, once I had that paper, tulle, and foam, then I put my sequins here. Okay, and the reason I'm showing you guys these steps is because I was asked again, how did I make this shaker tag? And I wanted to show you the tag here. Okay, all it has is that one shape that I was just showing you guys, which is this one. Okay, and then it has tulle right behind it, and then on the sides, if you see here, it has that foam adhesive. So the background is this same tag here that you see here. It's the same tag, it's just this one's stamped differently, obviously. The stamp that I just showed you guys on this tag is the same one that I used on this larger rectangular one. And then the other things that I did was on the edges here, it almost looks like the paper is wet. I used the same technique of embossing. I just used a different type of embossing powder. Okay, so that Recollections powder that I used a minute ago, that gave that just subtle shimmer to the paper, has a thinner grain, but there is also this one's called ultra thick embossing enamel, and this is more like the consistency of caster sugar. If you know how to bake, then you know what I'm referring to. It's much thicker, and you can use it in layer and layer and layer, and it actually it was meant to be used with a melting pot. Okay, Ranger came out with a melting pot years ago. This is not new to the market, so you can layer it and then use stamps to leave an impression on it. But what I did was I just used 2 different layers of it, and then it literally, once I warmed the paper with my heat gun, it ended up looking like it was just wet, and that's just on the edges of that. So it's subtle, but it's there. If you look closely, you can see it. This particular tag, what I did was I layered acetate in the middle here of the black paper and the white paper, And then the edges that you see here, that's just freehand doodling. I just took a pen, an ink pen, and then I just drew on it. Let's see, I think it was my Sharpie, yep. So I literally just started doing little twirls like this, and then just following the same, you know, shape there. Just repeating a shape, okay? And then you can go over it to darken it up a little more. But that's what I did. I doodled on it. And then once I was done with my doodling, and what I did was drew it as if it were lace, because I drew little flowers and that sort of thing. Then I used my glossy accents, which is here. I use this just on, I'm surprised I don't put it in my coffee. So I used that, and then I topped that with glitter, okay? The little hat image that you see here, this is also available in Cricut Design Space. And I mean, there are thousands of images, as you guys know. That one is on a little stand, which I love. I think it's so beautiful. It's very retro. What I did there was that I used a separate die that I did not cut with the Cricut. It looks like this, okay? And this is actually half of this. So it actually cuts out like that, if you can picture that. So I cut it in half. I glued it onto my hat. I added a strip of little black diamonds there. 2 little flowers, and then of course I topped off the little flower bits there that are on the tips. I put little diamonds on there in black and in clear. And then what you see as the little studded, almost like a studded metal, you know, little metal studs, that's actually silver. Where is it? I wanted to show you guys. My desk is a mess because I've been doing so much. Here it is. It's not a mess. I just couldn't see it. All right, so it's this Viva Pearls pearl pen, okay? So what I did there was that I squeezed it and I used it like a pen. I got a very, very tiny amount there on the tip of it, and then I just started dotting it on my paper. Now, this is not for everyone. Not everyone enjoys this sort of thing. Me, I'm not, I can do this for hours. I don't know why. It's therapeutic, so I can draw dots and dots and dots, or lines, you know, how people do that whole thing that's caught on with the mandalas and things like that. I think it's kind of funny because I have been doing that since I was a small child. So for me to draw something, a pattern on a separate piece of paper, it's just fun. So what I did was I completed all of those swirls with those little dots, and it's very subtle. I mean, you'd have to look really close to see it. But when you're done with the entire thing, because it's silver, and it's got shine to it, then you're able to see, like, it adds a hint of shimmer to that as well. And then of course, you know, I just added pearls, and then on the inside of the shaker there's white sequins, clear sequins, and then little heart-shaped beads in there also, and those are, you know, easily found. And yeah, so that's my tag. That's all of it. If you guys have any further questions, let me know. I'm going to be making some other ones. I didn't know if you guys would be interested in watching me make them or not. So I just wanted to show you the techniques that I used. It's they're not complicated. It's just, it's fun to add several of them to one project. And then once you get going, it's just a lot of fun. And you can turn a white, simple piece of paper into something that you actually really like, you know, to share or look at. So, so yeah, I hope you guys have liked this. If you have any other questions, let me know. I'm more than happy to respond, and I hope you have enjoyed it and learned something from it. The other thing I was going to share was just that the distress oxides, if you want to rather than just using it like I did here. If you want a more vibrant look, you can actually spray the stamp, that big stamp, you can spray it, mist it with water, and then put this on, and it'll give you an entirely different look. So that's a lot of fun too. And what I'll do is I'll post pictures, of course, of my projects, and hopefully you guys have had fun watching this. I hope you have a great day, be inspired and be blessed, and take care. Bye-bye.